Oh, SD card full. I hope
Oh,
you got
man.
that. I hope you got that.
Ah, dang
I
it.
hope you got that.
Welcome back to Ralph's Garage. Today we're going to be putting this JDM EJ20 into that 2001 Subaru Forester. Stay tuned. There she is on the stand, and I gotta say, I've been getting my Subaru JDM motors from JDM Engine PA in Philadelphia, and that's where I got the motor for the Legacy, and it was very clean, and this is very clean. They give you compression numbers and everything on them. I mean, it's super clean. All we bought this for is the long block, so the intake manifold's going to come off. I'm probably going to keep the power steering pump because I'm willing to bet it has less miles than the one on the Forester. But everything else is going to come off. And then instead of taking the engine out of the Forester, because Melissa's using this still as her daily driver and spending a day transferring everything over to the other motor, I happen to have this, which is a USDM single overhead cam EJ25, which is the same thing that's in the car. I bought this as a spare, never ended up using it. But what I'm going to do is transfer everything from this motor over to that one so that in one night we can just pull the motor out of her car, drop the new motor in, and be done. So let me pull this motor out and drag it over next to the other one, and then I'll be right back. Well, here we are, side by side. We have the USDM EJ25, which you can see barely right there. Says 25, it's really dirty. Here, if you look, oh, there's a piece of plastic there. This one says it's an EJ20. Basically everything on here up top is going to go. I'm going to use this this alternator and this power steering pump because they're the same, and these look cleaner than what's on the car now. So the first step in doing this swap is to tear this engine down to where you just have a long block. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do that on both motors. Alright, back with you here. Intake manifold gone. Now you can clearly see EJ20. For you Subaru guys, if you're running air conditioning and you get a motor, always hang on to this AC pulley. This plastic pulley breaks sometimes or wears out, and it's always nice to just have one on hand. Very useful to have. I love me some spare bolts. I always hang on to these kind of things. Alright, so I just got to do the same thing to this motor. And yeah, let me get to it and I'll hit you on the backside. Alright, so we got the front of the engines tore down. As you can see, first glance, they look the same. So what I did is I lined the timing marks up. So you can see this timing mark here, it's going up. This one goes up, and that one goes up. And you can see like the pattern of the teeth on this crank pulley here. This needs to be moved over to the JDM motor as well. And then on the back side of this, once we pull it off, I'll be able to show you, but on the back side of this, there's a pattern that the cam sensor picks up, and it's not the same on the JDM motor as it is on this USDM motor. So all you have to do is change this entire cam pulley, this entire crank pulley, and the sensors, put it on the JDM motor, throw it in, and the stock ECU will run it. I'm a little perplexed here because normally on the JDM EJ20s, the crank sprocket, the crank timing sprocket, has a bunch of small teeth around it, and then a flat spot, and then a bunch of small teeth. And this is the one I pulled off the JDM motor, and it looks identical to the USDM pulley. I mean, let me adjust lighting here. It is absolutely the same. Normally when you do these swaps, you have to change out this pulley, which comes from right here. It goes right there on the crank. And also that timing pulley that goes here. But I'm going to leave these JDM ones in because I'm curious to see if this will fire. It should. Mechanically, it's the same. And what you're looking for here, just let me kind of represent this. Let's say this is your crank sensor, right? As the crank turns, it's a magnetic pickup. So it senses how close. It senses that gap. And then as the crank turns, it gets a pulse, one pulse, another pulse, another pulse. So now it knows, you know, where on this pulley it's at by that. And it's the same thing on the cam gears. Your crank, your cam sensor sits here like that. And as it goes around, it senses one pulse, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, and so on. And that's how, you know, it knows when to fire. And I want to see if this is identical. It's the same. So I don't really know. I was hoping to show the difference, but these are the same. So I'm going to put the JDM stuff on because I'm going to use the USDM cam sprocket, but I'm going to use the JDM crank sprocket. I'm going to use the nicer looking of what I have here. The one thing I am going to take this cover. So the JDM one is broke. So I'll swap that over. I got a new timing kit. So I'm going to time this and we can get it going. Other than that, I'm pretty much ready to go with this thing. Ready to slap the intake manifold on it and drop it in the car. I'll be putting the timing cover on in the car. These little pins, I want to wait to pull that until it's in the car and I got everything hooked up. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I would pull the motor out, but the Forester is my girlfriend's daily driver. She needs to drive it tomorrow morning, so I'm not gonna pull it out. I'll just wait. All right, welcome back. It's the next day. We're sitting exactly like we were yesterday. But one thing that we are gonna do is we're gonna shuffle some cars around real quick. I'm gonna get the BMW out of the way here, push it off to the side. I'm gonna get the Forester in here because it's starting to rain and it's a little bit chilly outside, so I'd rather work in here than pull the engine. But we're gonna take and pull the engine out of the Forester because I'm not sure about these gears that I'm switching out. I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing before I put the motor in and reassemble the whole front of it. So let's shuffle some cars around. Cars are moved around, BMW shoved outside, and I got an area to work here. I got to kind of push the car back, so we're gonna have a little bit of noise in the videos just from the door being open, but I closed it as much as I could. So now we just have to yank the stock motor out of this Forester, and I'm gonna get started on that. First, I'm gonna take that EJ25 off of that stand because we're going to need that stand for this motor. One thing I did want to point out on the automatics, I know a lot of people get stuck when they're doing an automatic. Right down here, actually I can show you on here. So right here is a rubber plug right there, and what you want to do is pull this off. This rubber plug, sometimes it's pretty stiff, so you yank that off, and then you turn the motor until you can see the flex plate bolts here, and that's where you take those off. If you don't take those out, you're going to yank the converter out with it and make a mess. Wanted to point something out for you Subaru guys out there. You do not have to disconnect your air conditioner. Just take it off the engine and flop it over into the battery tray. All the lines are still hooked up. You don't have to worry about recharging it, nothing like that. You do This is your torque converter bolt, and I took the intake manifold off. It makes it easier to get to, and I have to take the manifold off anyway to swap it to that motor, so I wasn't too worried about it. But basically, you just turn the crank. So there's two. I think there's three, or there's four. So I already pulled that one. The next one I pulled. So you just turn it and pull them bolts out. So yeah, just wanted to show that to you right there. This is the motor mount, and it is completely rounded off. So I got everything else. It's literally that and one other bolt back here, which I need to jack the motor up to get to. So I need to run the lows because let me show you what I got. These things are great. However, the size that I need is this one right here. So I gotta run the lows, pick up one of these new sets, and I'll be back. Well, I'm back. I got an extractor and pulled it off. Right in the trash. Ain't keeping that thing. It's empty. And here she is. Dirty, disgusting looking, and on the engine stand. I had a whole bunch of problems getting it out. That motor's been in there since Subaru put it in there, and it was definitely stuck. But I got it out. So now what I'm going to do is tear. Let me spin you around here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear the front end of the motor so it looks like this. I'm going to take this sprocket off like we did on the other motor and this sprocket and compare them and see if they're the same. If they're the same as this, then we can push this together, drop it in the car, and we're good to go. If they're different, then I'm going to have to take them, put them on here, which one of the reasons why I didn't pull this pin out is I wanted to make sure that I don't have to take any of this apart. Because once you pull this pin out, dunzo. Uh-oh, who's here? Yeah. And Jay showed up. He's got a way better camera than me. Look at that thing.
We're not judging. Size doesn't matter.
Wah, wah, wah. So, yeah, we're getting a little dual recording here.
Yeah. My vlog and your vlog.
Yo, we're vlogging a vlog.
Yes.
What's your channel name?
Purple 87 SS. Mostly G-body content.
Okay.
That's
all right.
The 84 SS out there. Not to be confused with my old 87.
Oh yeah. It looks good.
I just want to come by and see what's going on in Ralph's garage. See what he's working on today and spin a couple bolts.
Yeah. Yeah, get out of the corona quarantine.
Exactly, exactly.
pulled the timing cover off of, this is the motor that came out of the Subaru, out of the Forester. The cam gears were the same, so went ahead and reassembled the front end. Ran out, grabbed some gaskets, and now we're going to throw it in. Oh yeah. I can use your equipment through my equipment.
There you go. Stabilize!
Went ahead and cleaned up the engine bay. Yeah, we're ready to drop her in. So I'm going to set the camera up there. So we'll time lapse the engine going in. I pulled the flex plate off of the stock motor, which is this one. And you're going to want to reuse this, the EJ25 flex plate. And I'll show you why. This is the JDM one, as labeled here. Don't believe that label, believe that one. That is why.
It's like 3/4 of an inch bigger all the way around, right?
Yeah. So don't put your JDM motor in and complain that you can't get it connected, because I told you. Pretty much done. We're gonna turn the key and see if it starts up.
Let's make sure we got no leaks. You got prime fuel pump?
Yep.
I don't see any leaks.
Alright, I'm cranking.
Fire in the hole. Burning off some of that oil, but she's running.
It runs.
Huh?
It runs.
What's that noise? Like, I hear a little vibration.
Yeah.
Alright, let's add some coolant.
Yeah.
Alright, she fired up. First try. Good job, Ralph.
Ran a little weird, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Alright guys, Jay just rolled out. It's like 11 or 12:30. Forester runs, and the engine doesn't sound totally you know, doesn't have a rod knock or anything like that. I'm having a problem with the idle, and I'm getting the check engine light for the neutral safety switch. So I'm gonna look into it tomorrow. But today the engine's running, and it's a JDM swap Forester, but it's not 100%, so needs a little more work. But right now I'm tired and dirty. I'm gonna go get showered, and I'll hit it with a fresh set of eyes tomorrow. What's up, guys? It's the next day. I'm back. I had a nice sleep and long shower. Last night I was thinking I did have to cut the connector off the power steering pump, because I used the JDM power steering pump so it looked cleaner. So I had to cut the connector off and put the USDM connector on because it's different. Now it's a single wire that comes out of the pump, and I believe that wire goes to ground when there's a demand from the pump, and that triggers the ECU to bump the idle up. So what I'm going to try doing is unplugging the power steering pump and running the car and see if that gives me an issue. Maybe this pump pulls to ground or pulls to power instead of pulling to ground. I don't know, but I'm going to give it a shot and see how it goes. Other than that, I'm going to clean up out here. If that doesn't work, I'm going to clean up, and then I'll dive into it some more. Let me fill you in on what I did. I've been out here for about an hour and a half, just kind of finishing up. I pulled the intake manifold off, cleaned off the mating surfaces. There was like old gasket material, which is my fault. I should have cleaned that off, but I kind of like rushed last night. So cleaned off the mating surfaces, put the intake manifold back on. One of the intake manifold bolts actually broke on me, and it's in two pieces now, but it came out in one piece. It was attached by a tiny piece of thread, so that was kind of cool. I'm glad that came out easy. So now it's back together. I threw a new fuel filter on it. I was getting a check engine light for the front O2 sensor. I looked at that, everything looked okay, so I went and picked up a new front O2 sensor, put that on, and now we're going to start it up and see how she runs. So battery's hooked up, we're ready, let's get it going. Okay, let's prime that fuel pump. It's probably going to crank for a little bit, or it'll fire right up. Seems pretty normal. See if the check engine light comes on in a few minutes. Rev's nice. Catches the idle. Let's check for fuel leaks. Put a new vent line on. Actually running pretty good right now. Okay, well, let's take it out on the test drive. Still no check engine light. All right. Yeah, so that's a success so far. I'm gonna back it out of the garage, and yeah, we'll take it on a test drive. This is a classic can of worms situation here. So I went and I got new front axles for the Forester. So when I took it out on a test drive, the driver's side axle kept popping out. The car would wobble. I've had the problem before with this car. The axle was beat. The cup on the inside sort of stripped out. So I did the passenger side, no problem. The driver's side fought me to get the ball joint out, and the ball joint's kind of poo-pooed. Let me show you this. So that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing now. I'm calling it for the day. I'm gonna, hang out with the woman and chill for the rest of the day, binge watch some TV. I ordered a ball joint from the parts store. It's gonna be in the morning, and I'll slap that in. Then we'll go on a real test drive. Okay, we're back. As you can see, the Forester's all reassembled. We're all good to go. Don't worry about this duct tape. Just kidding. Yeah, we're all good to go. We're about to take it out on the first test drive. Well, the second test drive. The first one, I found one of the axles was bad. So, replaced both front axles. Ended up doing the ball joint over here because that was shot. And yeah, we should be good to go. I'm going to back her out, and Melissa's going to take it on a test drive, so see if she approves. Oh, yep, heater's P0330. Okay, 0130. Two sensor, bank one, sensor one. That's a sensor I replaced. So we have a wiring problem with that. That's the intake. Fix that intake. That's super annoying.
It blow off. Got an airbag, some kinks. I was trying to save me.
She's a ripper. See how fast that RPM dropped? It was like wham. Feels pretty good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It feels like it's got a smoother. The engine definitely runs a lot smoother. Okay, I'm back in the Forester. I got the check engine light off. We're going to test drive, see if it comes back on. Pulled the connectors. Pulled the connector for the oxygen sensor, for the front oxygen sensor, and cleaned it with contact cleaner. Pushed it all the way in, make sure it was seated all the way. Check engine light's back on. So it must be a wiring problem. I'll have to figure that out. Not related to the engine though. I think next time we're gonna work on the Trailblazer's bumper because it's broken.